I think I'm ready. Okay. Welcome to BuildWise, the podcast where construction meets wisdom. Join us as we explore the ins and outs of the construction industry. We're going to share insightful tips. We're going to dive into the latest trends. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just getting started in your journey in construction, BuildWise is your go-to source for valuable insights. Let us build a smarter, wiser future together. Like and subscribe now. Stay tuned for a foundation of knowledge in every episode. I am your host, Dan O'Neill, and today we're discussing trends, like technology trends, right, Bree?
Yeah, so speaking of diving into the latest trends, 2020 kind of brought about some new trends. So, there's the bad side of 2020 and then there's the good side of 2020. And I guess, it really allowed us to step up and come up with some new innovations and technology.
Like what?
Well, this one's really fun. So have you heard of the Bluetooth boot?
I've heard this before.
Oh, is it because you forgot to hit record?
Oh, so we went through about 15 minutes of this, and the record button didn't turn on, so we've already talked about this once.
Okay, well, before today, have you heard about the Bluetooth boot?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well, it's actually pretty cool because they basically put Bluetooth connectivity and Wi-Fi connectivity in a boot. And the purpose of it is so that if somebody is on a job site and they fall or anything happens, they, whoever, maybe project manager, whoever is monitoring the software, is immediately notified. So
to tell you when you need to wash your socks too.
That would we should leave a little comment card for these Bluetooth boot people.
I don't know, so if you got a 30-acre site, I don't know how that would work with Bluetooth because that Bluetooth only goes so far, but then...
maybe they connect it to their phone or there's a little, AirTag chip kind of thing, Bluetooth chip. I don't know. But I do know that that's some new technology that's out there, and, that's kind of cool if it works.
Yeah, I don't know. And a lot of that stuff, it sounds great on the surface, but they give it the boot later. No, I'm kidding. But sometimes it's got to go through several different renditions of that to perfect it. But I know that they have stuff like a device you wear that if you have an impact, it'll send off a signal. So if you fall, it'll send off a signal.
Didn't you say shock? So for electricians and stuff like that?
Well, it's called a shock device, but it's they put it on packages actually all the time. So basically, if it gets impacted, it doesn't send out a signal, but it shows a different color if that box has had a significant shock to it.
Oh, have you seen it work?
So yeah, I've seen it on some boxes, but cool. I haven't seen it activated, but supposedly if it gets a hard hit, the thing changes color and you know that it's been hit really hard or dropped really hard.
That's cool.
But yeah, like electricians, that'd be a good one, where it sends off a signal if someone gets shocked or electrocuted or something like that.
Are electricians supposed to have somebody else on the site with them because it's so dangerous? Imagine if you're working on something and then you do get shocked and you're by yourself.
Okay, so that's going to come down to safety protocols and your activity hazard analysis and evaluating what kind of dangerous situations you're going to be put in, and if
what kind of job it is.
If you do need a spotter or somebody there, and depends on if you're working on lockout, tagout. There's a lot of variables, and it depends on what you come up with safety-wise. So it just depends. You're putting a cover plate on an outlet, no. If you're opening up a panel, yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, so back to trends, because that's way more interesting than safety regulations. But what about what?
Oh, well, I was going to mention the little robot that draws the plans on the floor for you.
I was leading into that.
Oh, you're too slow.
No. No. You're just impatient.
No.
Yes.
Yes. No.
What you brought up though was actually really cool. And the reason why they're coming up with all of these new innovations and did so in 2020, and I'm sure they probably were kind of thinking of these things a little bit beforehand, but it's because they needed to social distance and they needed to, create ways so that people didn't have to be in close quarters. But this new piece of technology where you got the blueprint mapping, it's like where they literally put the robot on the ground and it maps out the entire building. Well, at least the floor level. And it's so cool. So you've seen it.
I've seen it in videos.
Yeah.
I have not seen it in real life, but it looks pretty neat. The only thing I don't know is how would it catch a dimensional bust?
Right.
Like, would it print out the whole damn floor? Like, how does it erase? I guess that's another question.
Well, do you need it to erase if you're going to go dig?
Well, what if it makes a mistake? If it has a dimensional bust, which plans do, plans have bad measurements in them. And if it has a dimensional bust and it carries that mistake all the way through, you might have half the building that you need to redo. And we're talking a little bit before about
on take one.
Huh?
On take one.
What?
You said we're talking a little bit before about it. And I said on take one.
Well, I started hearing some noise outside, and I thought you were saying take one, like do it again.
No, nope.
So, so anyways, it can migrate through a project, and that's the nice thing about the human aspect is you can catch the mistakes and make quick corrections. So when I did that facility for the assisted living, we did have a bust of about a foot.
Yeah.
And so when you have the overall measurement, it adds up to one thing, and you take all the little measurements and you add them up, right? Mm-hmm. It didn't add up. It was a foot off.
Yeah, which is detrimental.
I don't know how many of you do that, but you should. So if you see an overall measurement, then you see a bunch of little measurements, add up all the little measurements and see if it comes out the same, because there's a lot of mistakes in those.
Yeah.
And so when we thought there was a problem, I used technology. I sent a drone up, snapped a picture of all the plates that were on the ground. And so it was all laid out. We had all the plates where we thought they went. And then I took the plans and I overlaid them on top of that picture and scaled it. And then I found out where we were off, like immediately.
Yeah, so that's cool that you were able to utilize technology to find and fix the mistake.
Yeah, so we did use the drone, and it worked. We found it. You asked me before if it delayed the project, but it didn't. We caught it the next morning.
Yeah.
So literally, rather than moving walls after everything was framed, we were able to just pick up a couple of plates and move them over. Yeah. And then it was good.
Man, I had a joke, and then I hate it when that happens. It was a good one. It was very punny.
I don't know. I got a couple of videos that you shared with me.
Yeah, this one. So this has to do with more like virtual reality, because that's really coming into the scene for the construction industry as well.
This is BIM. It's pretty cool. They actually use BIM a lot in big projects. I don't know about the VR glasses, but I know that they use that layering technology and the 3D capabilities to, make sure you don't have conflicts, or, you got to, see how much room you have underneath the concrete structure and the wall and the ceiling and all that.
Yeah.
And so, you got that, which is pretty neat. And then...
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, it's pretty cool. Problem is, you got to be worth millions of dollars to afford that stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do you need that kind of stuff for residential construction and, some restaurants and things like that? Might be cool, but...
Restaurants, depends on where it's at. If you're downtown working in a high rise and you got other tenants that, you might be impacting, I can see where it could be very useful. But it's pretty cost prohibitive for most.
Yeah.
If you're a big company and you're doing the shell and, you're working with all that, and you got to have the people to run it. So it's like, it's not just like, you slap this cool program on there. You got to know somebody that knows Autodesk and BIM and CAD, and you got to have somebody that knows all that, constantly manipulating it, constantly checking it out, using it in advance. It has its advantages, but it's takes a whole other layer of people to manage that.
Yeah. So while one of the things that happened during 2020 was obviously people weren't going to work. And so there was a great shortage of skilled laborers, but I guess it's being replaced with. And one of the things that 2020 brought about was remote construction. So
Well,
did
the
you?
labor shortage started long before 2020.
Yeah, it started. Well, we talked about this in another episode that a lot of the shortages started back in 2008 with the Great Recession, maybe a little bit before. And so many people, like your age, left
Well, we
the
pushed
industry.
the nation and our government and whoever the cabal is started pushing for everyone going to college, and let's all have these massive degrees that cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars that you can't pay back, or you're indebted and you're enslaved to the man for all that stuff, and you haven't even gotten out there and done your job yet, and you're indebted to the government, right? And so Mike Rowe been a big advocate for be a plumber. I mean, you can make
Isn't that the dirty jobs guy?
Yeah, you can make $100,000+ a year. Guys getting out of college or people getting out of college, they're lucky to start off with $70,000-$80,000 a year jobs, and they owe hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
You take somebody and teach them a trade, they have a skill that they can use for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
Well,
college is important for some aspects in some jobs.
I think that if you want to advance, I think college has a purpose.
Yeah, for like doctors and lawyers.
No, I think, I know a lot about construction. I could build just about anything, I feel. I think college can give you that polished edge to be a little bit more of a sophisticated player. Rather than being in a meeting like me and going, oh, that guy's an idiot. And, you can be a little more polished, right? And, maybe a little more articulate.
Yeah.
And things like that. Funny thing is, I get my point across. I mean,
Every time?
pretty much.
Well, it depends on who you're talking to, I guess.
Yes, I guess I'd have to have somebody with the same level of knowledge to kind of get it.
Yeah.
And when you don't have that level of knowledge on the other end, that's where the articulation and the explanation and the diagrams and all that other stuff comes in. And it definitely is, you got to paint the picture with a broad brush and then narrow it down. But yeah, so.
Well, and speaking of drones, because that was something else in 2020 that was really being utilized a whole lot more, they're using them actually to protect workers in projects where, you got skyrise buildings and stuff like that. So
Skyrise? What's a skyrise?
Did I say skyrise? High rise. High rise. High rise buildings, but like where, they'll take heavy equipment and things like that. I guess these drones are able to, maybe it's multiple, but they're able to lift heavy equipment and material up to certain heights and levels so that you're not using people to do it and putting them at risk.
I think that technology is getting to the point where it's very useful. You know what else they do with drones?
What?
I'll tell you.
Do tell. I'm not as witty today.
They actually have.
I didn't get much sleep.
They actually have software that you can fly over a drone over a site in a pattern. It'll do a pattern, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it'll take. I think it's LiDAR, but they'll take scan shots of the property. Then you go and do a bunch of earthwork, and it'll tell you the cubic yards that you scooped out of this area. The cubic yards are in this pile. Cool. It'll tell you different things, and so that technology is pretty cool because you used to look at a pile and go, well, I think there's 300 yards there, and then you'd have 150, or hey, I think we got 150 yards, and you have 300, and so when you're more accurate, you can order the right amount of trucks. You can order, you can really,
Yeah, for sure.
you can make sure your change orders are good. You can make sure, all this stuff is good. And so they do have some really neat technology with some of that stuff now. And they've gotten pretty sophisticated with it.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, there's some technology out there that just is kind of pointless, but it seems like within the construction industry, things are kind of moving in the right direction. That boot, I'm really curious to see how that works out. That's the Bluetooth boot that we talked about. I'm curious if that's going to be effective.
Why is that like big on your mind?
I just think that's so random. When I was doing my research on all of this,
they're not Jimmy Choo's their boots.
I know, but it just was. Listen, I was doing my research on it, and I'm like, a boot with Bluetooth? It's like, have you heard of the toilet with a Bluetooth connectivity? We put one in one of our clients' houses, didn't we?
Bluetooth toilet?
Yeah. So you can just be, sitting on the crapper and listening to your music and, maybe listen to a podcast. I don't know. It's just the weirdest thing.
Where does the sound come from?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it echoes in the bowl.
Bra.
Plop.
Oh, man. Oh, that would be disturbing.
Well, they have that. And then they have, whatever. It's just one of those things. I'm almost positive one of our clients had that in their home.
Why did you use it?
No, because one of our guys said that the toilet had
Or
Bluetooth
a guy's
connection.
used it.
Maybe.
Oh, my gosh. It was probably the bidet one.
Maybe they were like making music as they were going to the bathroom. I don't know. It's gross.
Tinkle, tinkle, little star.
Tinkle, tinkle. Okay.
My gosh. Oh my gosh.
Well, yeah. So a couple more.
What?
Just trends, industry trends, and stuff like that 2020 brought about. So, the Bureau of Labor Statistics.
Here we go again.
Well, most people rely on that. So we're going to go with it. Show, and we've talked about this before, that women in the construction field occupy about 10.9%. And the construction industry has seen since 2019 a massive surge of female-owned and operated construction companies, but they are the ones that are leading with the technology. So, which is kind of fascinating. It's almost like they're coming in as I don't know why that statistic is the way that it is, that women are the ones that are kind of coming in with more technology based. Maybe it's because they don't have the skill as much. They might have the knowledge, but maybe not the skill. Because again, we go back to the college conversation. Maybe they got the college background, but not so much the experience.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I do know that, and maybe it's because, so.
They say that 94%, there's been a 94% increase in female-owned construction companies since 2019. And they're the ones using all the technology. I challenge
smarter, I challenge that
harder.
Statistics, that's probably some truth to that. Well, no, think about it. I mean, you got the knuckle draggers out there. I'm self-taught on all the stuff.
You're a knuckle dragger.
And I am a knuckle dragger, but I've self-taught myself. But it's funny. I was just talking to a friend of mine the other day, and he went to go work for this company, and they've hired not the young guys that know all the computer programs. They've hired the old salts like us, like me.
Yeah.
Because we know how to build, but he barely knows how to turn on his computer.
Yeah.
Talk about George.
Oh, Georgie Porgy.
So
you need to get him out here. We've talked about him a few times, and just get him on.
I know. Well, we'll get him on Zoom maybe, but
That'd be fun.
But he was just telling me that, and it's true, and so I think when you take time to learn the technology a little bit, there's great helpful programs. I do think technology is helpful, but I also think I've seen more miscommunication in this day and age than I ever have in business or construction or anything. And I've got programs to track stuff. I've got people to track stuff. I've got programs to track stuff. And I can't tell you how much crap is lost, misplaced,
I think
applied, and it's kind of crazy.
I think that all of those programs have a good purpose, but we almost are so inundated with so much technology that it almost becomes a distraction at times. And it's like, well, you know, like how many sources or folders or things, you know, do you have to put, you know, a blueprint in or whatever, and then you got to send it to this person, this person, this person, or, you know, I don't know. Sometimes I think it just gets to be a little too much.
Well, think about this. The simplified kind of version of that is back in the day when an owner of a business used to have a secretary to take a message, you know, on those little pink things that while you're out, you know, you'd get the message. It would be put on your desk. You came back in from the field. You'd go through your messages and you call people back on a landline.
Yeah.
Now we have cell phones and we've got text messages and voicemails and all these different things. And literally, if you don't answer your phone, like almost immediately, people get all offended, all butthurt. And it's like you can't even get through the day and focus on any one thing. So we've all got this forced ADD. It's all kind of a bunch of forced ADD.
Forced ADD.
And so
mine's not forced, it's just there.
I think and you take people with ADD like me, and then you force that other stuff on it. You've got to manage that. You got to manage your technology to the point where you got to decide, okay, that's too much. We don't need that. Let's just go with this. You know, managing, you know, hey, you know, that text message reply that I'm either on the other line or I can't talk right now, you know, blah, 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 blah. Those are good things. Voicemails are fine, but it's funny because back then somebody really wouldn't be on the phone at all. They'd be consciously thinking and working on the project. Owners and people, they'd be totally engaged, not distracted, not pulled away.
Yeah.
And then they would compartmentalize and then they go to their office and they would do their stuff, right?
Yeah.
Now you're getting bombarded all freaking day long, all weekend long.
And maybe that's part of the problem.
It is. Technology has helped in some ways. It's very much, I think, a distraction and a deterrent in other ways.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and then, you know, that leads to, you know, clients and subcontractors and business and vendors and different people kind of respecting and understanding the boundaries of that. Because, you know, like a cell phone, you know, like usually if you call the office, you have to call between 9 and 5 or 8 and 4 or whatever their business hours were. Or you weren't getting a hold of the guy.
Yeah.
Now they know they can call you at 9 o'clock at night.
You've been called at 9 o'clock at night. Blown up.
Yeah, you can get, you can have like, and it's like, really?
Yeah.
You know, like, what am I going to do about it right now?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, this is not the end of the world. This can wait until morning. You know, why blow up the weekend or blow up the night? You know, I guess that's a whole other podcast we could have, but it just, technology is good to a point, but it's got its limitations and it's got its drawbacks.
Yeah, it does. It really does. I think that, you know, the whole idea of technology is that it connects us, but it actually really disconnects us quite a bit because we're not engaged.
Yeah.
So, and I'm just going to run through two more things really, really quick, and then we're going to wrap up. But again, U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics reported that the consumer price index has risen since 2021 by 17% for cost of materials and goods. And then on top of that, you have compounding interest. So things are just getting so expensive. Again, this podcast isn't just technology, it's also trends. And the trend is obviously, as we all know, inflation, but cost of everything is going up. So they count 17% of that. And I know that you have really personally experienced that. And how is that with dealing with clients? Because there's that sticker value when you give them their estimate or their quote, and it's the cost of building nowadays. It's so expensive.
You mean the sticker shock?
What did I say?
Sticker value.
Yeah.
Sticker shock.
I didn't sleep very well last night.
Evidently.
Or very long.
So, yeah, I mean, it's a problem. So, I'm dealing with a big project right now. We bid it almost a year ago. And they want you to keep everything the same. And you're like, I
Costs
can't.
are going up. No.
Well, and everything changes. Some things go down. There's lumber. We used to monitor the lumber trends. We used to get a thing from our lumber company, and it was the lumber trend, or the concrete company. It was a concrete trend. And you can watch the trends of the market, and you could see it going up or going down. And so we could forecast a little bit like, hey, listen, by next month, if it keeps going the way it is, we'll be, 15% higher.
Yeah, so it wasn't very concrete.
No, that was the other trend. But, but I don't see people doing that anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know. I bet if I called up and asked for a lumber trend, I don't know that they'd know what to do. But we used to do that.
Yeah.
And it used to be very helpful in, when we're bidding a job and let's just say we knew the job was going to happen in 30 days. You could put in there the lumber price for today. Your bid usually had to be good for 30 or 60 or 90 days, which back then you could do it because the trends didn't change a lot that fast. Now they're volatile.
Yeah.
They could change overnight. Everything could change overnight. Like you could bid something today and tomorrow or down or up or sideways or whatever.
Yeah.
And then that's another problem.
Well, and what kind of contract actually helps you with that to avoid, big issues like that?
Well, we've changed all our contracts, and I think everybody else has that. Nobody's responsible for that. Like
Yeah.
you can't.
Yeah, that's
you
good.
can't.
You need
You
that
don't
kind of
unless you got your
language.
crystal ball on your table. You can't forecast anything anymore. You used to be able to forecast because you can get the trends, you get the data. Now it doesn't matter what they send you. And they won't stand behind it.
Yeah.
The suppliers won't stand behind it. They can give you a trend today, but there's probably a little thing at the bottom that says we're not responsible. Blah, blah, blah.
That's true. I've seen stuff like that.
Yeah, and so it's kind of crazy.
Well, and then the last thing was just green energy, because that is such a trend, and it was reported that renewable energy sources captured 11% of the energy market in 2019. So obviously it's continuing to grow, and we in our spec homes are doing some like renewable energy and not greenhouse. Oh my gosh, my brain. I got into a car accident.
We're not doing any renewable stuff. Just FYI.
Okay, so what is it then? We're doing.
And all the renewable stuff is a bunch of crap.
But we are putting in some green, like our windows, right? Aren't we doing something with that? I'm gonna have to cut this whole section.
We
out.
did put windows in, yeah.
No, okay.
Keeps the cold air out.
I'll cut this section out. What is it that we're doing with this?
We're not doing anything green.
Mom told me that we're doing some kind of like renewable.
I don't know. Mom's smoking better stuff than I am.
Green stuff.
Green stuff. Now that's
Now
the
I
only.
wanna put
That's
this
probably
in.
the only green thing. No, we don't.
I'm kidding.
But no, seriously, the renewable energy and those statistics that they quote is crap, absolute crap, because the amount of fossil fuels it takes to produce that exceeds the percentage that they say. So if they actually really did the math on that, it's fossil fuels increased by this much to produce all that crap, and then now we got 19% or whatever you called it. I can't remember what it was.
11%.
They're forcing a lot of that stuff on us. We have on those houses we have a well, we have propane gas, which nobody likes that really because fracking and everything else. But
It's such a different conversation.
I know it's those kind of statistics drive me crazy because it's garbage. It's like, I don't know if you've seen the car chargers where the memes and everything where they have a car charger and they're charging it and they're towing a generator.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
And, you
That's
know, in
funny.
order to charge that car, it's like, really?
Well,
And then when you go to those really nice looking little booths with the little plug-in thing, you know, and like, oh, it's so clean. Back behind there, about 100 miles, is some company cranking out fumes and everything else to charge that stupid car. You know, it's just the
yeah, no, I know.
the idiocy behind all that is crazy. I think there's places like I like some of the solar stuff. I like some of the things. They have their uses, but they're not the end all. And then, you know, they have a whole new thing now that for the solar panels, the crystalline in them and all that stuff, that they're having a hard time with the landfills trying to get rid of the used panels because solar panels don't live forever. They have a half-life.
Right.
So you could have a 20-year half-life. So, you know, and you have, you know, you pay for it for 40 years, but in 20 years, they're only producing half of what they normally did. Then you got to pull them all out, crush them all up, which that takes energy, and then dispose of them and then put new ones out.
Well, and then even like the lithium that they need for all of this stuff, do you know how they're mined, and they have pictures and videos and evidence of people in countries like Africa and all these other places, these third world countries, who are dying. They have like little children that are, you know, in these mines. And it's so sad. And, you know, what I find really sad is like you almost can't escape it anymore. It's in every single one of our cell phones. It's in everything.
It's in everything we're looking at. You know, that screen, that, you know, it's in everything. But,
so
you know, it just, those kind of statistics are, I think, you know, BS. That's government propaganda. You guys may not like it, whatever, but it is. It's a bunch of garbage. Yeah. I think you know, I put solar on my trailer, my job trailer, which charges some batteries. It's a great application. It's perfect, but it's not an end all. And you know, eventually I'm gonna have to replace them because they're gonna poop out. You know. Yep.
Well, so those are the trends. Some of the trends that I kind of looked up and I just thought were fascinating and interesting. I love to kind of see how they pan out because sometimes they're a total flop. But yeah.
All right. Thank you guys. If you haven't already, like and subscribe, and we will catch you on the next one.
Bye.